Sitting opposite the interrogator is a man who looks as plain as any other, apart from his obvious frustration.
Your name is... Last name is Spikes?
Spikes.
But as the depths of his crimes came to light, not even his profession could save him from the ultimate punishment.
And your occupation?
Police officer.
You a police officer or a sheriff?
I used to be a sheriff's deputy. I'm a police officer now.
You work for a city?
Yes.
Where is that?
Florilla, Alabama.
Todd Spikes is currently sitting in a Flagler County booking station, a far cry from the heart of Dixie. It is late December 2006. His 6-hour drive was not one of sunny leisure on Florida's Atlantic shores.
Thought I'd give you a courtesy call to let you know we have arrested one of your officers.
Judging by the demotion, it's easy to assume that he wasn't the most honorable officer on the force. Perhaps this arrest was part of a series of past indiscretions. He lost his sheriff's badge in 1992 after claims of excessive force were brought up against him. The charges were dismissed the following year, but he was asked to step down nonetheless.
He said the guy just started working back for him, just finished up his refresher course so he could come back into the law enforcement in Alabama.
Now the retraining makes sense. Let's meet Todd back in the interrogation room.
And what's your home address? And is that in Florilla?
It's Defuniak Springs. Defuniak Springs, Florida.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
You just drive across the state line every day?
Yeah.
Now, the half-hour trip to and from the station also makes sense. It's typical of most commutes. But that still doesn't explain his presence here in Flagler Beach. The investigator needs a little bit more information before she can untangle that, though.
How long have you lived in Defuniak?
Actually, I've lived in Walton County since 90. I've lived in Defuniak since 95, I think.
Maybe he lived just a little bit too close to that charge. It could have made things more uncomfortable for him. But by this point, it was a drop in the bucket compared to everything else, and by no means was he going to speak about it.
Do you understand your rights? And are you willing to talk to me? No?
It's not a crime to exercise your right to silence, but it certainly doesn't help your case if you know you're innocent. But maybe Mr. Spikes wasn't.
I need to get some more personal information from you. Are you married, single?
Divorced.
You're divorced? How long have you been divorced?
There's some heavy emotions tied to that question. Maybe some shame and a whole lot of anger.
It's about, I guess, either 98 or 99. I don't remember what year.
Okay, and you've been married just this one time, or?
Yeah.
And how long were you married?
9 years, 10 months.
That's the first question he's answered without hesitating, implying he thinks about this topic a lot. The scorned husband angle is looking more and more credible, but trust me, we've only scratched the surface as to the depths of his rage.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
What does that have to do with the thing? I'm just curious. The fact that if I was married or not, or what does that have anything to do with anything?
What it has to do with it is that I'm trying to ascertain if you have any children, or
No.
if you have
No.
any access to
No,
children.
no, I don't.
Now comes the question as to why this man wasn't allowed to be around children.
Okay, I'd like to advise you of your charges.
Okay.
Being arrested for lewd and lascivious conduct, attempted lewd and lascivious exhibition, computer transmission of harmful material to a minor, and contributing to the delinquency of a minor.
Facing charges like that, it's no wonder he caught on fast. For the past week, Todd Spikes had been in contact with who he believed to be a 13-year-old girl. Flagler County Police knew about his intentions before he made that drive from Defuniak Springs, before he approached the decoy home full of undercover operatives.
We have a fast mover somewhere in Florida, and we also have a guy that says he's somewhere between Daytona and St. Augustine that's talking about coming.
There was no mistake. His intentions were made painfully obvious by his screen name alone: loves to eat your peach. And as you can probably guess, that kind of talk was rampant within the chat logs. He sent multiple indecent pictures to her, proposed getting married to her mother so that they could become closer, and even toyed with the idea of pawning her off onto perfect strangers. But Todd had experience on both sides of the badge, and as he approached the house, it became more and more obvious to him that he was being set up.
He actually circled the house numerous times.
With no other recourse, he fled. The police force had accounted for this, though. They had set up roadblocks around the neighborhood and caught him only a few minutes later.
After we actually took him out of the vehicle, he advised us that he had a firearm on him.
What reason would he need to be armed if he were coming face to face with a 13-year-old girl? But that was not the only thing they found after they shoved him into the back of the squad car.
And your vehicle, is that registered to you?
Yes.
Perhaps his admission was a harbinger of things to come, or a way to soften the blow, so to speak. Either way, when the topic of his car came up in the interrogation room, he began to fidget.
We are going to file for a forfeiture on your vehicle to seize that. So you'll need to, when you make your bond arrangements. What are you doing, sir? Do me a favor. Okay. I want you to just leave your hands still, okay? And we're going to be done here in just 1 second.
Everything pointed to a much more insidious outcome.
In reference to the weapons in your vehicle, I don't know what's going on with the inventory of your vehicle, but there may be potential additional charges.
You heard that right. Weapons. It started with the pistol in his waistband, but a thorough search of the vehicle unveiled a litany of much more dangerous firearms.
You have a 38 Smith & Wesson Special there, a Glock 40, and a 45 caliber Sig Sauer. You have a 12-gauge shotgun back there.
But even more shockingly, that wasn't all. Cameras, adult magazines, rope, tarps, and even an anchor. And most disturbing of all, a handheld chainsaw. He was shaping up to be one of the most dangerous predators Flagler County ever had the misfortune of catching.
I want to let you know that when you make your bond arrangements or whatever your arrangements you're going to be making after you go to our county facility, you need to make arrangements to get home also because you won't be taking your vehicle.
Okay.
All right?
Okay, I've got property in the vehicle I'll be able to take. My dad's Rolex watches in the console.
Pardon me?
My dad's Rolex watches in the console. I got it when he died, so how would I get that back?
We're seizing your vehicle.
Right.
We're putting in for a forfeiture of the
Okay.
vehicle. It does not include the contents of the
Okay.
vehicle.
It's chilling that this monster kept his father's keepsake in the glove box, all while premeditating this little girl's end. Todd had been adopted by a loving pair and held them both in the highest regard. How would they have reacted, knowing that the boy they raised had veered so far off course?
Can we take him out in the hallway and sit him down? You're going to have to just be patient, sir. It'll be a little while before we go to the jail.
All right. Do you have a clue about how much the bond may be?
No bond.
Todd probably felt completely alone in this moment. His parents were gone. His wife was gone. His badge taken. All that remained, a deep pit of spite.
We're with Dateline NBC, and I just want to give you a chance if you wanted to say anything about what happened tonight or anything else. Do you want to talk to us?
But he wasn't alone. The news crews knew that. They stood at the ready for the next person of his ilk to realize that their time was up too.
I didn't do anything! Come on, dude, I didn't do anything! I did not do anything yet!
Yet. That was the key word, wasn't it? But fortunately for the Flagler County community, that time would never come, because these men fell into the same trap as Todd Spikes. On the national sensation known as To Catch a Predator.
Let go of the keys.
No, they're my keys.
Let go of the keys!
All right.
Their fearless frontman, Chris Hansen, had been working with Flagler PD on an undercover sting operation that outed 21 other potential predators that very month. And while their work was far from over, the crew was able to sleep just a little bit more soundly, knowing that they had taken so many off the streets.
What message do you think this investigation sends out, both in your community and across the country?
We are willing to do anything legally possible to keep our children safe in our community. We may be small, but we will use all of our resources.
Todd Spikes fought his charges for almost 3 years before taking a plea deal, subjecting himself to a decade of probation and placing himself on an offender registry for life. He violated his parole in 2012 and spent 3 years in prison before being released back into the heart of Dixie. He's in his 60s now and will have to spend the rest of his years looking over his shoulder for those who prey on his kind. Thank you for detecting with us today. We have many more investigations unfolding, and if you want an inside look at what we've got coming your way, check out the links in the description to find us on Twitter and get access to our Discord server. We'd love to have you join our community and provide input on which developments warrant our attention. If you appreciate our efforts and want to support our future case studies, please take a moment to like and subscribe so that you know when our next file is revealed. And while you're at it, why don't you check out this video on the screen? Who knows? It might be right up your alley. Until next time.